Imagine India many years ago. Most people lived in villages, surrounded by fields and forests. Their lives revolved around the land. They were farmers, growing crops like rice, wheat, and cotton. These crops fed their families and were also sold in markets. Life was simple, but it was hard work. Villagers depended on the monsoon rains for a good harvest. A bad monsoon could mean hunger and hardship. Despite the challenges, village life was rich in tradition and culture. People celebrated festivals together, shared stories, and helped each other in times of need. The village headman and the panchayat, a council of elders, settled disputes and maintained order. Life in rural India was closely connected to the land and its rhythms. The British, who ruled India at this time, needed money to run the government. They introduced different systems to collect revenue from the farmers. One system was the zamindari system, also known as the permanent settlement. In this system, the British made agreements with powerful landlords called zamindars. The zamindars collected revenue from the farmers and paid a fixed amount to the British. Another system was the Ryotwari system. In this system, the British collected revenue directly from the farmers, who were called ryots. The amount of revenue depended on the size and productivity of the land. The third system was the Mahalwari system, which was a combination of the zamindari and Ryotwari systems. In this system, revenue was collected from a group of villages or a mahal. These revenue systems had a big impact on the lives of farmers. The zamindars often exploited the farmers by demanding high rents. The Ryotwari system was supposed to be fairer, but the British often set the revenue rates very high. This made it difficult for farmers to pay their taxes and sometimes led to debt and poverty. Indigo, a plant that produces a deep blue dye, was in high demand in Europe. The British realized that India's climate was perfect for growing indigo. They saw an opportunity to make a lot of money. Indigo plantations were set up in Bengal and Bihar, regions known for their fertile land and abundant rainfall. Farmers were encouraged, and sometimes even forced, to grow indigo instead of food crops. Indigo became a cash crop, something grown for profit rather than for the farmer's own use. The British believed that indigo would bring them wealth and prosperity. However, they didn't realize the hardship it would cause for the Indian farmers. Section 4. The Indigo Plantation System and the Revolt. To maximize their profits, the British introduced two main systems of indigo cultivation, Nij and Ryoti. In the Nij system, the planters, who were mostly British, directly managed the cultivation. They employed hired laborers to work on their plantations. This system gave the planters complete control over the production process. The Ryoti system, on the other hand, involved the planters entering into agreements with farmers. The farmers would agree to cultivate indigo on a portion of their land and hand over the harvest to the planters at a predetermined price. This system seemed beneficial on the surface, but it came with its own set of problems. One major problem was that the planters often forced the farmers to cultivate indigo on their most fertile land, leaving them with poor soil for their food crops. The prices set by the planters for the indigo were also very low, barely covering the cost of production. This left the farmers trapped in a cycle of debt and poverty. Section 5. The aftermath of the Indigo Rebellion. The Indigo Rebellion was a turning point. It showed the British that they couldn't ignore the plight of the Indian farmers forever. The rebellion forced the British government to investigate the indigo trade and its impact on the farmers. Though slow in coming, the government eventually passed laws to protect the rights of the farmers. The Indigo Rebellion also inspired other movements for farmers' rights across India. People began to realize the injustices of the colonial system and the need to fight for their rights. The rebellion might have been about indigo, but it was really about something much bigger: the fight for freedom and justice. Section 6. Conclusion. The impact on rural society. The revenue systems and the indigo trade had a profound impact on rural Indian society. They led to the exploitation of farmers, increased poverty, and created social unrest. The Indigo Rebellion, however, ignited a spirit of resistance among the farmers. It showed them the power of unity and the importance of fighting for their rights. The rebellion marked an important chapter in India's struggle against colonial rule. It reminded us that even in the face of oppression, the human spirit yearns for freedom and justice.